Hello everybody and welcome to the next presentation. It is called MLA Documentation Tutorial. You have been using MLA throughout the semester. Some people are really trying while others aren't really trying at all. For the research paper, you really must follow MLA handbook or documentation very closely. I'm going to go through this presentation and I want you to note that I got this from the West Los Angeles College. I'm going to use theirs. I want to give them credit so that I do not plagiarize. If you look here, this is what the MLA handbook, the front of the book cover, looks like. I have it because I have a master's in English. You may not have it. However, if you're going to continue on and you're going to stay in the humanities, you may want to buy this book because it will help you. What will this tutorial be about? Number one, when and how we cite using MLA style. Number two, how to create a works cited page, which we know is the last page of the essay or the paper. And then there are print, electronic, and media forms that we can cite to let the reader know where we found the information. And then number three, we'll also talk about if you can't find it or you come across something unusual, we'll talk about how to find that. Especially you can use OWL Purdue. Their website is excellent. Here, this just talks about MLA style. It refers to a way that everybody who uses the MLA style will write their papers. It makes everything standardized so that it's easy to follow. Some other subjects will use APA or the Chicago style. However, for English we use MLA. Okay, I wanted to tell you that there is a lot of writing on these slides, so if you want to, you can pause and read them. I'm just basically going to overview them. Next, why should we cite? Because we want to give credit to the person whose ideas that we are using. If we borrow somebody else's ideas, if we don't give them credit, it is plagiarism. So make sure that if you're directly quoting, if you're paraphrasing, or if you are summarizing, that you give the person credit, the author credit of where you found the material. If not, again, it's plagiarism. Here you can see that I just mentioned to summarize, to paraphrase, or to quote. If we're going to use somebody else's words, let's just look at this example. My mother always said, make your bed. These are your mother's direct words, so the author is mom, and maybe we found it on page 12. This lets the reader know, oh, they used mom's exact words, and it could have been found on page 12. So you want to give the reader all the information you can so they can locate your source. In next week's video, you will definitely see summary, paraphrase, and quoting in more detail. However, I'm going to touch on it briefly here. A summary is the abstract. It's mainly all of your words. It's when you're taking a lot of material and condensing it, just giving the main points. The second is a paraphrase. A paraphrase is similar in the length to the quote you're going to use. However, you make it your own words. You don't use any of the other words. However, if you do use a paraphrase and you do quote or use exact words, you would put quotes around the exact words, but then continue to paraphrase. And then the last part is the quotations. This is the one that most of you use in class where you're directly quoting word for word. Let's take a look here. Let's take a look here at this example. Here we noticed that we have quotes, quote. So this is what the scientist said. This is word for word. This is the direct quotation. And where did we find it? Silver was the author, and we found it on page 11. So this is a direct quote. The next one is a paraphrase. It's very similar to the direct quote, but we've made it into our own words. This way it will flow better within our own paper. Sometimes quotes don't fit smoothly. That's why many authors choose to do paraphrases. If you noticed with the paraphrase, although there are no quotes, we still have to give credit to Silver, the author, and then again the page number was page 11. So with all three, with a summary, a paraphrase, and a quote, you must always give your parenthetical citation, the author and the page number. How do we cite? There are two types. First one is the in-text citation. That's when we put the quote, the paraphrase, or the summary directly into the essay itself. And then, for instance, on the last slide, we used Silver as the author. So if we use Silver as the author in the in-text citation, when we come to the works cited, we should see Silver, which is his last name, in the works cited page. That way we know in the in-text citation that it was from Silver. If we want to locate Silver in the works cited, then we can see if it came from a book or an actual article. So there are two parts when you are citing. For the in-text citation, which I've already talked about, usually you give the author's last name and a page number. For example, Polar would be the author and then page 188. This is called a parenthetical reference, Polar 88. Most of the time you will use the author and the page number. However, in a few minutes we're going to see examples of different ways of doing it. So the last example was Polar and then page 188. However, here we decided to put Polar, who is the author, in the actual in-text citation. Therefore, we only need to put the page number, page 122. We do not need to restate Polar again because we've already given it in the introduction of the quote. Here, if there is no author, and sometimes you will come across that, instead of putting an author's name, you put the title of the article or the book where you found it. If the book title or the article title is really long, shorten it. Just give me enough information that when I go to the works cited page, which is at the end of your essay, I will be able to locate where you actually found this information. The next part is, if you cite using more than one page, maybe you're summarizing or you're going across different pages, you would use 123-25. This way we know that your in-text citation has gone over 2 pages. Here, if you go over 3 pages, 136 to 139, and then you jump to another page, then put a comma and then that page. If you have 2 works cited or 2 authors, and you're using them to join together for a summary or a quote, maybe you use Taylor, page 54, and then part of the quote or the in-text citation comes from Thomas, 327. Put both of those in the parenthetical citation at the end of the in-text citation that you are using. Now, if you were to use electronic sources, many of them will not have page numbers. If that's the case, just put the author, no page number. Again, if there's no author, give as much as the title that you need in your parenthetical citation in order for me to locate it on the works cited page later. So again, if you have an electronic source and there is no page number, leave it out. Next is the works cited page. We know that anything that is included in the in-text citations in the actual body of the essay must be on the works cited page so we can find out where the information came from. So let's take a look. Notice that the works cited page is its own page. Works cited is centered at the top. Notice that it's in alphabetical order, Ball down to Singer. This is called a hanging indent, where the author is at the margin and then anything else is indented. And then if you follow along here, these are good examples of how to make a works cited page. And again, you can use the MLA handbook, you can use the back of our textbook, or you can refer to OWL Purdue. Let's look more closely at an actual citation. They usually include the author, the title, publication information, and the format descriptor. Take a look. We have the last name, the first name, then we have a period. The book title here is italicized. Then we have New York, that's where it was published. The publisher is Viking. The year it was published is 2007. And then here, print, we know that we actually looked at the book. We did not use a website or a database. So this is general overview of what most of your citations will include. Next, we know that most book titles, book titles are italicized. If you're going to use an article or an essay or short stories like we use from our book, they should be in quotations because they're not books. They're coming from a book, but we're reading essays or articles that are inside the Patterns book itself. And then last, there are rules to follow for more than one author. For instance, here, you want to give the 3 authors' names because there were 3 used in the article, or the 3 people who wrote or contributed to that article or book that you used in your essay. If you're going to not use a book but you're going to use an article, such as a newspaper or a journal article or something from a magazine, again include the authors if there are authors, put the title of the article in quotes, put the periodical title, which is the name of the journal, the magazine, in italicized, the volume number and issue number if it's there, the publication date, the page numbers of the article, and then the format descriptor. Let's go to the next. If you take a look here, let's say this article, the author was Farley, the article title, here in quotes. Where did it come from? What periodical? It came from Monthly Review. The volume was 60. The issue was number 3. It was published in 2008. We used pages 68 to 90, and this came from print. So if you put print here, this means you actually printed this off from your copier. However, if you didn't use that, you would write web if you used it directly from the website. If we take a look here, this explains it a little further. Again, it's another article that we found, maybe. Here we go. Author, maybe there's no author here. That's why there's no author located. The title in quotes. Here's the magazine name in italics. It was published in 2008. Stanford University published it. We found it on the web, and what day did we find it? So we found this, or we looked it up on April 4th, 2010. Remember, it was published in 2008, but we looked it up on April 4th, 2010. So this is using an electronic source, but through the web. This time we did not use the print. We did not print off and have a hard copy in front of us. Let's take a look and see what it will look like in the actual Works Cited page. Climate change. So there was no author. Climate change. The day it was published, where it came from, and it was a web source, so we know we didn't have a hard copy, and then with the day that we got it. Okay. And then next here, this is the example we used on the last slide. Global warming, it's the name of the article, where it came from. It was published in 2008, came from Stanford University. That's who published it. We got it on the web, and then again we looked for it on 2010, April 4th. There may be times that you choose not to use print or web articles. Maybe you'll use media sources such as a TV show or a film clipping. Any of these here, if you take a look at these. You can find these examples again on OWL Purdue or in the back of your book, but let's just take a look at the second one here. The girl with the dragon tattoo, we must have used a quote or summarized part of her movie, of this movie, in our paper. So again, the title of the movie, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the director, the performance, music box, who's published it, what year it came out, 2009, and it was a film. Here, up here at this one, this was a CD, came from Erykah Badu, whose music I love. Down here, television. So I'm not going to go through each of these. You can find these formats in your book again or on the OWL Purdue website. I keep referring to the OWL Purdue website because Purdue University does a really good job of MLA formatting, or even APA if you decide to take other classes where you have to use MLA. It takes you through everything. So I used this a lot when I was doing my master's degree in English all online. It worked really well. Yes, I have the MLA document book, but most of the time it was quicker for me to just go here to the OWL Purdue website. Okay, everybody, that was an overview of the MLA documentation. Most of you, again, have been using it well. Others need to really focus in on it and try to use it a little better. If you have any questions, let me know, and good luck.